Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is still 10th of May, now it's 9:30 in the afternoon, Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my second update today, in which I will share all the latest updates on the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And same time, because second updates usually are for Patreon only, I will share in this video video footage that me and my family we made yesterday in Moscow during the Victory Day celebration. And because I did not make update yesterday, I will share this video not just on Patreon but also on my main channel on YouTube. But style that I will make this video will be exactly the same that as I do usually in second updates for Patreon. So it's gonna be a little bit more casual, but I hope you will find it interesting and useful. So that's been said, let's talk about news now. And first of all, of course, I will share with you latest updates, and then in the second half of this video I will share footage from yesterday, and I will give you some comment about what is happening in the video. So this is Kommersant newspapers information here, little article according to which Anna Malyar, deputy of head of Ukraine's defense minister, did stated that information about death of head of general staff of Ukraine, Zaluzhny, is not true. Well, if situation about this personality is needed to have official statements from Ukrainian side, that must mean that something had happened. Because lately, yesterday and today, there are some rumors in internet that not just Zaluzhny was killed or wounded during one of the Russian missile strikes, but also head of Ukraine's ground forces, General Syrsky. But yet again, there is no confirmation. Officially, Russian side is not saying anything about it, at least for now. But as you can see, because of these rumors that are circulating in internet, deputy of Ukrainian defense minister Anna Malyar come out and made this statement to deny everything about death of Zaluzhny and the head of ground forces Syrsky. Well, in coming days we will probably learn much more, but journalists and some Telegram channels did notice that Zaluzhny and Syrsky not been seen in public for the last few days, at least. And same time this morning in the first update I did share with you information that Zaluzhny didn't participate in a meeting of heads of general staff of NATO member states. And the reasoning behind it was that, according to high-ranking NATO official, was that Zaluzhny is too busy. Situation on the ground is needs him to be, present in I don't know where, in general staff, or excuse was quite strange, let's say this way, that Zaluzhny did not participate in that meeting. So maybe something truly happened. Maybe Zaluzhny and Syrsky, they are killed or wounded, or one of them are killed. But in coming days, we will anyway learn more information about it. And of course, I will share with you all the news that will be available through Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on internet. Let me continue now. And this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which Russian side did manage to shut down yet another Su-27 fighter jet of Ukrainian Air Force in Kharkov direction. Well, I'm still surprised whenever I hear that Russian side did shut down Su-27s of Ukraine or Zelensky's regime, because I mean, after a year of special military operation, it's really surprising that Kiev do still have some Su-27s because Western European countries, former members of Warsaw Pact, did not had in the inventory Su-27s. They did had MiG-29 fighter jets, and most of those fighter jets already have been transferred to Zelensky's terrorist regime, and many of them probably already are destroyed. But Su-27 is a different story, and that's why I find it truly surprising that we are seeing this kind of information that Russian side did shut down yet another Su-27. I wonder how many Su-27s there is left in Ukraine. 1, 2, 10. I mean, when this kind of story is gonna end. But anyway, let me continue now. And this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which, and this is great news, by the way, absolutely great news, because today Putin signed the order according to which Russian side is resuming direct flights to Georgia, and also Russian side is abandoning its policy, its visa policy with Georgia. So from 15th of May, citizens of Georgia will have opportunity to travel in Russia for 90 days without any visa whatsoever, any visa requirements. Which is great news, of course, great news for both countries, both societies, because traveling, free movement of people, it's always makes it much easier to understand each other, in my opinion. And because I'm originally from Georgia, of course I'm happy whenever anything good is happening in Georgia or for Georgia. So this is great move from Russian president, and I hope relationships between the sides will improve step by step, and one day this relationship between the sides may become truly friendly, and that would be great, of course. Quite a few times I'm receiving requests from members of our community to talk about Georgia a little bit more, and I do talk about Georgia whenever we have some news in Russian media about Georgia. Unfortunately, majority of those news are or was not really positive, because as you know, recently, just a few weeks ago, US did try to destabilize Georgia, and there were some demonstrations, this so-called opposition that are entirely controlled by CIA and Washington. They did try to block parliament, to even break in to the parliament. There was definitely preparation of the ground for regime change, and fortunately, a criminal regime in Washington, this criminal Biden and his administration, didn't succeed with it, at least for now. And yes, in that period of time, of course, I was talking about Georgia almost on a daily basis. But since then, I did not really had that much reasoning to mention Georgia, and now we have great news, which is, I mean, truly wonderful development. But by the way, just look at this, man. I did share on my Telegram channel about this information. I did share on my Telegram channel this information, and I even commented that President of Georgia, Salome Zurabishvili, who is a Western asset, by the way, for 100%, this individual, this creature, come out today after it became clear that Russia will not require visas for Georgian citizens anymore from 15th of May. This creature, this Zurabishvili, made statements that this is somehow provocation of Russia. This decision is a provocation, and the same Zurabishvili did ask government of Georgia to impose visas for Russian citizens. I mean, she made some crazy statements, really, and she once again made it clear for everyone that she is a anti-Georgian element. She does not care about Georgian citizens, anything Georgian. She was born and raised in France, and she is part of this globalist. She's puppet of globalists, basically. I don't know when she was when she became asset of CIA. Probably when she was studying in US, but anyhow, with today's statements, I mean, it's just become probably clear for everyone in Georgia. I hope so, that this individual is truly disgraceful person, and it's a shame, truly shame for Georgia that they still have such a president. They should impeach this individual and just and then ignore her, because this is impossible, man. Society is happy because relationships between the countries are becoming good step by step, and at the same time, this so-called president of Georgia, and by the way, Georgia is a parliamentary republic, so statements of Zurabishvili, formal president of Georgia, don't really mean anything. These statements just highlight what kind of person this Zurabishvili is in reality, and that's it. Because prime minister is head of government in Georgia, and it's prime minister that conducts policies or directions, including foreign policy. And I should say, man, current government of Georgia, current ruling party, even though they did not give me back my citizenship when they become in power in Georgia, and I have some hard feelings about it still after so many years, but it's not about personal stuff, isn't it? It's about some much more serious topics, and that's why I'm happy for Georgia. And I'm happy that Georgia has a government that it has, which is much better than any other government Georgia ever had since the collapse of Soviet Union. And as I said many times before, I believe there are some route to bring Georgia and Russia even closer. And this is peaceful settlement between leadership of Georgia, South Ossetia, and Abkhazia to create confederation, which will, I believe, Moscow won't be against this kind of development. And if Georgia, Abkhazia, and South Ossetia, and I was promoting this idea of confederation, I mean, since I remember myself, because I was for peaceful negotiations always, and that's how everyone should be, because I was seeing this conflict between Georgia and South Ossetia, Georgia and Abkhazia, as a civil war, because it was civil war. It was citizens of one state that were fighting each other, and now when Russia did recognize South Ossetia and Abkhazia as independent states, of course there is no way that Russia can recall its recognition. But if Georgia, South Ossetia, and Abkhazia will, as a result of negotiations, will come to agreement to create confederation with moratorium to leave confederation for, let's say, 15 plus 10 years, if all the countries agree, then I believe Moscow won't be against it. Moscow even probably will support this kind of decision, because it will not demand from Moscow to recall any recognition. No, it will be decision of these three sides to create confederative state, and this way, first of all, conflict between the sides will end. And I believe if we give sides opportunity to live in peace 25 years next to each other, after 25 years, no one side will have any desire to leave this confederation. And yes, I hope one day leadership of Georgia, South Ossetia, and Abkhazia, even though this is a very difficult topic to negotiate, not just between each other, but also with societies of Georgia, Abkhazia, and South Ossetia, because of this element of mistrust. But I believe this is future for both, for all three sides, not both, but for all three sides, for peaceful future. And if one day we will see this confederation, then I believe Moscow and Tbilisi, or Moscow and capital of confederation. I mean, it's not necessary that Tbilisi will be capital. It can be Khashuri, for God's sake. I mean, city in middle of Georgia, for example, or any other city, Tskhinvali or Sukhumi. It will be capital of confederation, but capital of Georgia will still be Tbilisi. And if one day this confederation will become reality, then I believe relationships between Russia and Georgia will truly become friendly, and how it's supposed to be from very beginning. But unfortunately, history went in a different direction. But anyway, this is great news. Sorry that it took so long for me to explain my take on this situation, but I'm truly happy for Georgia, for Georgian citizens. And this is TASS News Agency's report about the statements that current president of Georgia was making. As I said, Georgia is a parliamentary republic, and I hope this person will very soon become a part of history, because right now she's shame for Georgia, man. It's unbelievable. So yes, great news, and yes, I mean, I'm happy for Georgians and for Russians also, because after so many years of difficulties, two sides are able to travel to countries of each other and to get know each other better, and this is all good, man. To get know culture of each other better, and it's wonderful, man. So yes, I applaud Putin for this decision, man. It was a great decision. I did not expect this, man. Let me continue now. And this is RIA Novosti's report. You're gonna love this information. RIA Novosti is reporting that Polish government make decision to rename Kaliningrad, Russian city. And they will now call Kaliningrad Królewec. That's what Poland officially gonna call this city whenever Kaliningrad will come up in any discussion or any official documents, or in history books, for example, in Poland. And you tell me how crazy is this, man? You tell me what kind of level, on what kind of level these Polish elites really are in their degradation, that they are now renaming cities of other countries. It's madness, isn't it? And the Russian side did comment on this topic exactly this way, from press spokesman of Russian Federation Peskov to all the other officials. I mean, they just made the short comments that this is madness, basically. And no one gonna take this kind of stuff seriously. But to be honest, it does shows what kind of individuals are running Poland. And this is dangerous for Poland, first of all, and Polish society, because, I mean, it's obvious that if you are sane, you're not going to do anything like that. I mean, can you imagine tomorrow government of India will make decision to rename, let's say, capital of US, and they will start calling capital of US, I don't know, third Delhi, for example. I mean, entire world will be like, well, what you are talking about, isn't it? That's what reaction will be, because it's just not serious, and that's what exactly this Polish government did. They renamed Russian city, man. I mean, okay. Well, it's interesting. What gonna be next crazy step of Polish leadership, because they are truly out of this world, man. They truly are crazy as hell. Let me continue now, and this is a statement from Stoltenberg, head of NATO, who said that it will be a mistake if West will undermine Russian capabilities of Russian armed forces. And basically lately, as you probably notice, more and more high-ranking Western officials are coming out and saying some strange statements. Before, like 2 or 3 months ago, they were in unison, were talking about Ukrainian victory and some crazy stuff like that. But nowadays, they are one by one coming out and saying that they should not underestimate Russian forces, Russian capabilities, this so-called counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime that are announced for a long time and anticipated by many, especially in the West, that this counteroffensive may not be as powerful and as successful as some may expect, and this kind of stuff, man, statements in this direction, and one will probably ask question, what hell is going on? Do Western elites are starting to distance themselves from Ukraine and the current regime in Ukraine? Are they preparing ground for inevitable elimination of this Nazi regime in Ukraine? And my answer is yes, that's exactly what they are doing. They are preparing ground for inevitable, because we all know, despite all these tensions between PMC, Wagner, and the leadership of Russian Defense Ministry, despite all these, differences in opinions, who should be defense minister, who should be head of general staff, and what and how should be done, despite all this stuff, we all know that this conflict between Russia and Western elites have already been this conflict. Russia is victorious in this conflict. That's what I want to say. Western elites already lost, and all we are seeing now is, and all we will see now on, is formalization of this simple truth that Western elites lost this fight with Russia. Because I was saying from very beginning that this is conflict between Russia and Western elites, and yes, despite all the difficulties, and of course there were some difficulties in Russia, and there's still some difficulties, but still Russia already defeated Western elites. That's how I see this picture. And it's obvious that yes, Western elites will now step by step distance themselves from Zelensky's regime, from this whole story of Ukraine, and of course they cannot cut themselves 100% from this story, because they are a big part of it, but they will try to stay away as much as possible to minimize to minimize damage to themselves. So, but anyway, I hope Western societies will demand answers. Once everyone will understand, or majority will understand in Europe, that Western elites already lost and they did sacrifice Ukraine for the crazy geopolitical goals. I want to believe that Western societies will start asking questions. Why they did what they did? Why they don't have a better elites that they have, and rest of it? And maybe one day we will see some crucial changes in leadership of West, because it's truly needed. Otherwise, more time goes by, more and more isolated Western states will find themselves from the rest of the world. And it's this process is already clear. If you want to see, if you can see it, I mean, if you are in news and politics, and if you are, if you have enough information, then you can already see that the world is step by step distancing itself from West. And this is not good, really, for anybody. So I hope one day Western societies will manage to make some crucial changes in their countries, and they will have truly decent people in elites. And that will be good for entire world, not just for West. Let me continue now. This is TASS News Agency's report, according to which during this meeting of heads of general staff of NATO member states, there was no discussion about delivering to Ukraine fighter jets. Well, not surprises there. Of course, media outlets, Western media outlets, constantly are renewing this, keeping this topic of Western fighter jets relevant. But we all know, and you know my take on it. I was saying from very beginning that only way we will see Western fighter jets, Western-made fighter jets, in this fight in the battlefield, if Poland and some other NATO member states will enter this conflict openly and take control over the western parts of Ukraine. In that case, and I think this will happen. You know what I think about it. My take is that this will definitely happen sometime in the future. And during this process, Warsaw and some other NATO member states will probably try to impose no-fly zone over these western regions of Ukraine. And if Warsaw, Bucharest, capital of Romania, and Budapest, capital of Hungary, will during this process will conduct negotiations with Moscow behind the scenes, of course, then I believe sides will be able to avoid direct confrontation between their militaries. Because just recently, if you remember, Medvedev made a statement in which he said that if we are choosing from two bad choices, entire Ukraine in NATO or just western parts of Ukraine in NATO, then of course it's more preferable only western parts of Ukraine to end up in NATO. And of course he was talking about possibility that Poland will take control over some western parts of Ukraine. Hungary will take control of some parts of western Ukraine. Romania and maybe even Slovakia. So I believe these kind of statements from high-ranking Russian official, and Medvedev definitely is a high-ranking Russian official. He is the deputy chairman of Russian Security Council. These kind of statements are not made for nothing. Some may think that Medvedev is trolling West and stuff like that. Sometimes he does, yes. But this statement is too serious to be taken as trolling. So yes, in that kind of scenario, of course, we will see Western-made fighter jets being introduced to the Ukrainian sky, but those fighter jets will stay in the western parts of Ukraine. And if they will cross ever this invisible line between the sides, then they will met missiles from S-400, and yes, that kind of meeting will not end well for those fighter jets. That's for sure. Let me continue now. And next news is about Pakistan. Of course, unfortunately, when I was preparing morning's first update today, on Russian media outlets in between, I mean, main topics, there were no information about Pakistan. I was surprised, really, because it's a huge deal that is going on in Pakistan right now. But some of you did ask me opinion in comment section under the first update, and I did answer then, and I will share with you my opinion about situation in Pakistan. If it's interesting, I hope it's gonna be interesting to you. And first of all, of course, you all know that current government of Pakistan made decision to arrest former Prime Minister Imran Khan, who is very popular in Pakistan, and in upcoming elections, all the experts, as I understand, and all the polls are showing that he will have a huge victory. Huge victory. And in my opinion, what is happening is that Washington, this situation in Pakistan is a conflict, geopolitical conflict between Washington, USA, and China. And Washington has quite good relationships with current government of Pakistan. When former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his government had great relationships with China, and during his reign, China and Pakistan practically become strategic partners. And China has heavily invested in Pakistan, and I believe for Pakistan's economy, China is a crucial partner. And for defensive purposes of Pakistan, China also a huge player because of history. Of course, you all know that China and Pakistan don't really have a greatest relationships with India, so it's quite understandable that Islamabad was looking for some support in neighboring countries, and China is the biggest one in the bloc and strongest one. Indians may not agree with me, and they have all the rights for that, but still, when it comes to power, for now at least, China probably are a little bit more powerful. That's why, in my understanding, India needs friendly relationship with Russia, and that's why Russia needs friendly strategic partnership with India. So let's go back to Pakistan, and yes, that's my take on it. I believe Washington is trying to raise or minimize Chinese influence in Pakistan, and that's why Imran Khan was arrested. That's why supporters of Imran Khan are under huge pressure in Pakistan, and this is basically a battle between Washington and Beijing that is taking place on Pakistan's soil right now. And I believe this battle be will end with victory of Pakistani people and China. That's my take on it. I think current extremely unpopular government of Pakistan that has support of Washington and London and Western elites, basically, I believe they won't be able to stay in power for long. And already today I did share on my Telegram channel information that it's already some armed resistance is taking place in Pakistan. And let's be clear, Pakistan's military will probably support Imran Khan if they had to choose, and also Pakistan's intelligence. Yes, it's called ISI, if I'm not mistaken, or ICI, something like that. And I think in previous decades, Pakistan's intelligence had a very strong ties with the CIA, but lately these relationships are not that great. And after all, Pakistan's military and Pakistan's secret services should base their position on best interests of Pakistan's defense. And in that term, China China is of course much more important for Pakistan that US ever will be. No matter what Washington gonna promise, everyone knows that Washington's promise means just nothing. When China not just promising but also delivering, and as I said, China had invested in Pakistan tens of billions of dollars, and China also play huge part in building Pakistan's defense industry and defense capabilities. So that's my take on it. Our friends from Pakistan, from our community, can share their opinion. Maybe I'm not seeing something, and maybe my take on this picture is wrong. Maybe this conflict, internal conflict in Pakistan, has nothing to do with US and China. I would love to hear from our friends from Pakistan. It would be interesting. Also from India and China, because I did mention those countries also. And from USA, why not? Even though for us, for US citizens and for Russian citizens, it's going to be much difficult to understand what is going on in the Pakistan if we are not specialists or experts in Pakistani's internal policies. So yes, I hope I did share my opinion clear enough. So yes, this is it when it comes to news. Let's check maybe some other news become a main topic. What we have here. Biden did warn the entire world with problems if US will default. I mean, that's quite interesting, man. What rest of the world has to do with the US default, man? It's White House policies that create this bubble, and if anyone to blame, it's White House and it's US elites, isn't it? But yes, if I don't believe that there will be any default in US, man. I don't believe for a second that US will default in near future. Probably in 5-10 years time, US dollar will lose its value in big time, and it will cause huge economical crisis in US. But when it comes to default, that's a very different story, and I don't believe US will ever default. Why? I mean, they can raise this limit of money that they can borrow as long as dollar is still remaining main world reserve currency, and for now dollar is main world reserve currency. In 5-10 years time, dollar may become not that important, and in that case US will end up in deep economical crisis. But even then, US will not default because dollars will become just papers, and they will be able to pay back their debt without any problem, really. Different topic is if world will accept that devaluating dollar as a payment, but yes, that's whole another story. Let's check TASS News Agency. Maybe there are some interesting updates. Okay, nothing too crucial, really. So yes, I hope you will find this news update interesting. And now, as I promised, oh, this video is already 40 minutes. Wow. But anyway, now I will share with you this video footage that me and my family made yesterday in Moscow, and I will give you my comment on videos. Not all those videos are mine. In the beginning, military parade is not my footage because no one from ordinary citizens were allowed on Red Square. It's only by invitation that you'll be able to go there. And when it comes to, yes, these fireworks, unfortunately, we were in the wrong place when these fireworks did start. There were some informations that there will be fireworks from Park Gorky also, but unfortunately there was, and so many people was waiting for this firework, not just us, but excuse me, but this firework did not happen. And because of this, I will share with you footage of other channels, and I hope you will find it interesting. Rest of the footage is what we made. It's ours. So yes, this is about 9th of May. This is beginning of the. I will make it, yes, like that. So that's how this military parade went. It was not the largest military parade that ever took place in Moscow. There were no tanks, there were no armored personnel carriers, many of the different armored personnel carriers. There were some boomerangs, but still there were some discussions in the internet and in the West. This is, by the way, T-34-85, legendary tank of Second World War, and according to many military experts, best tank of by effectiveness, best tank of Second World War, because Soviet Union was able to produce thousands and thousands of T-34s in different modification. This one is T-34-85, and yes, these tanks play huge part in victory over the Nazi Germany. Flop armor was first time was in mass on T-34 tanks, and this is some other armored cars that Russian armed forces are using, Tigers, Typhoons, and you know. So as I said, there was no aviation also yesterday, no aviation and no tanks, but it's probably understandable. It's probably understandable because you know, usually in parade this military equipment comes from Moscow region, from military units that are from Moscow region, and as I understand, the majority of those units are now participating in special military operation. So it's understandable that there was no tanks from Moscow region, and I don't think it was reasonable to bring tanks in Moscow from some other regions. I mean, why, for God's sake? You may see some reports in Western media that, because there was no tanks on in Moscow, they had no tanks left. I mean, this is absolute madness, man. Military parades take place in many other cities, and in those cities there was tanks, and there was armored personnel carriers, and the rest of it. So Western propaganda sometimes is just, I mean, even not laughable no more. I mean, it's just too crazy. So this is, I mean, we went for a walk in Moscow streets, and of course, security measures were quite high, which is also understandable. And 9th of May was very peaceful, very nice day. Only bad memory from that day is that my older daughter lost her phone, and she was upset, and it did take some time for me and my wife to calm her down. It's just phone. I mean, we can deal with that. She was upset that she had all those programs that she's using, and phones start playing nowadays quite an important role in our lives, to communicate, to read, to do many stuff. And but anyway, it's just fun, and we will deal with it. But in all other ways, I mean, day was absolutely wonderful, and weather was wonderful. Not too hot, not too cold. Just nice weather to walk around Moscow's central parts, which is, as you can see, quite nicely done, and it's wonderful city, really. And if you will come to visit Moscow, you will agree with me, I'm quite sure. And by the way, for all of you that never see my informal talks on Patreon, that's what I do time to time on Patreon. I do share these kind of videos from Moscow, from this town that I live right now, and I live very close to Moscow, in Moscow region. And we call it informal talks. I just comment videos. I do summarize previous week, how it went for channel, and yes, we are just communicating in a casual style. So, as you can see, plenty of people, flags. Despite this pressure, psychological pressure from special military operation, atmosphere was, as you can see, quite good, and people did enjoy themselves, did celebrate Victory Day, and for us, in majority of former Soviet republics, so Victory Day is one of the greatest celebrations of the year. So it's always important. And now you can see we went close to the Red Square and Kremlin area. This is Russian Parliament, by the way, building of Russian Parliament. At that point, we were unable to go to Red Square, and we didn't went to Red Square on 9th of May because it was still shut down. Because of military parade, it was impossible to get to Red Square, at least when we were there. In the late afternoon, of course, it was open, and people, and full of people. So this is Bolshoi, by the way, world famous Russian theater, and as you can see, atmosphere is there, flags everywhere, people are taking pictures, and yeah, not just locals but tourists as well. Unfortunately, because of these sanctions and anti-Russian hysteria of the West, not that many tourists from the Western states, but still you're gonna find tourists from different Western countries also. Not just tourists, but many people are emigrating to Russia because they are sick and tired of these crazy ideologies that neoliberals and globalists are pushing in the Western world over the society. So many citizens of Western states that have traditional values, they are looking for a place where they can emigrate, and for many, Russia is the place. And I absolutely understand the decision. So this is also central part. Moscow is a huge city, so central part of Moscow is also enormous. So we went to Museum of Modern Art. In this museum, there are plenty of artworks of famous Russian and Georgian sculptor. How you say it in English? Famous Russian and Georgian sculpture maker, Tsereteli, and all those sculptures, all that stuff that you are seeing is made by Tsereteli. It's modern art, so not everything is understandable straight away, maybe, but it's not really that hard to understand. Compared to current modern art that we are seeing in Western states, I mean, this is classic, man. This is very well understandable and done. So what to not understand here, for example? So plenty of museums in Moscow, big and small. And if you are visiting Moscow and if you want to spend some time to get know better artworks and cultural and historical stuff, of course you have plenty of choice, and it will take quite a few days just to go around museums in Moscow or in St. Petersburg, or I mean in any city in Russia you're gonna find at least few museums, because it was always important since the Soviet Union, and now it's the same, to finance this direction, and that's why plenty of museums everywhere, which is good, of course. And this is a different place. Also, you can see here, you're gonna see here museums, but also nice square, just to take a walk around cafes and and yet again flags everywhere. Some concerts. Oh, let's listen to this.
Песню наизусть учили, помнишь?
So this kind of local stages you would be able to see all over the Moscow and some Soviet era songs, of course, very popular, especially about Second World War, Great Patriotic War. That's how we call it here. But Great Patriotic War is from 41 to 45. Second World War is, of course, from 39 to 45. So there are differences there. But this part of Second World War, which began on in 41 with this German Barbarossa plan between Germany and the Soviet Union, and end on 9th of May. We call it Great Patriotic War. It's a nice place, really. Oh, this is Pushkin Square, by the way. That's a different area. So you're gonna find this kind of small or middle size of squares all around the Moscow. It's quite a green city. You may be surprised how green Moscow is, really. There are plenty of squares, parks, places to go for a walk with alone if you want to, or with family members or friends. It's plenty of choice, really. And Moscow is very comfortable, very friendly to residents, because the transport is very well developed municipal transport, and because of planning of Moscow, as I said, there is plenty of squares and parks, and it's very important when you are living in a big city. Some improvised concerts also. This is street musicians. Yet another alley that we went to yesterday, and as I said, man, plenty of alleys, squares, parks. Usually it's nicely done, wonderfully done, and it's very calming. And I mean, yes, it's nice to have this kind of parks, squares, and alleys next to in your area of the city, so that you always have opportunity to go for a walk or take a seat in alley and or square and just have a rest, you know. Okay, let me share with you one more video. So this is this is храм Христа Спасителя, biggest Orthodox church in the world, if I'm not mistaken, biggest Orthodox church in the world. One of the biggest Orthodox churches are also in Georgia. It's called Sameba. And Храм Христа Спасителя, this church is a little bit higher and significantly bigger than Sameba, even though both churches are just huge, and it's sometimes you wonder how they build this cathedrals even in nowadays. So this is Moscow River and banks of Moscow River. As you can see, flags everywhere. Now we are walking towards Park Gorkova. Whenever we are in Moscow, we are trying to go in Park Gorkova at least for an hour or two, just to walk around and relax. It's a nice place to be. And this is entrance to Park Gorkova yet again for atmosphere. Everything was done to create this joyful atmosphere of celebration, and Park Gorkova was no exception. Oh, that's me, by the way. Yeah. So plenty of people. This is Park Gorkova. Flowers everywhere, greenery, trees, fountains. This is, by the way, places where for free you can taste food that was given to soldiers during the Second World War. And as you can see, there is food there. Many of people are, interesting to have a taste of what it was like to have a food during the Great Patriotic War. Of course, it's impossible to understand through what our grandfathers go through. I mean, what it was a unbelievably bloody war. We all know this, and my grandfather was wounded 5 times during the Second World War, and still every time he was going back on the front, and after war he stayed in military and he served in military before, and he retired from military. So Second World War did had huge influence in many ways on almost everyone in Soviet Union. And this is in the afternoon when we were waiting for firework. As you can see, sea of people. It was not just us was mistaken, but I mean, sea of people. We all expected that somewhere from there, from Park Gorkova, there should be some fireworks, and it did not happen, unfortunately. Unfortunately, so because in Moscow there are many areas that fireworks are, done from this bridge. We did not. There was no fireworks from Park Gorkova, from Gorky Park, but far away, as I understand, from Luzhniki area. I mean, you can see there that there was some fireworks. Yes, that's. I may be mistaken, but I think this area of fireworks was somewhere around Luzhniki Stadium. Not that far away, really, but not too close either. Or either. And in the end, that's why I will share with you. This is footage that not belongs to us. I will just share with you how it did look from close. That's Luzhniki area, exactly. You can see stadium here of Luzhniki. So yes, it was a great day, great celebration. Day to remember everyone that give their lives so that we will have some future, and to pay tribute to all the veterans that did survive in that war. So yes, I hope you will find this video interesting, and yes, this video is 1 hour and 8 minutes. I don't know how many of you will watch it, but anyway, I did promise that I will try to make video, and I did it. Unfortunately, I had some other plans for video footage, but it was nearly impossible to do everything as I planned. But maybe next time. So yes, this is it for now. If you find this video interesting, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like. If you can, please share links to my videos with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active. This will probably increase my chances significantly to reach wider audience. And if you think this channel is deserving to exist, then please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.